Okay, last, we're gonna go on to item number 13. Who pulled that item? Councilman Nelson, did you have any questions on that one or any comments?
No, I just want to comment that, and I understand the reasoning behind. I think people need to understand the state has contributed a ton of money to food banks. Last Thursday, a federal judge said the administration has to release funding for SNAP, and supposedly they're going to release partial funding on Wednesday. Now, how fast it gets down to this level is kind of an interesting discussion to have. But I think, and I understand the concern, I understand the passion, but I think that drive needs to be driven to your local representatives. What I mean, your senators and your congressmen, they're in Washington, D.C. And you may say, well, they won't talk to me or I can't reach them. So you understand in the lockdown, they're the only people getting paid. In the entire lockdown, your senators, your representatives are the only one getting paid. They're here to represent you. And I'm sorry to say both parties have failed the public miserably. But if we can get a groundswell up, that everybody makes an attempt to call your representative, to call your state senator, is anything going to change? Historically, probably not, but at least they've heard a loud voice. I won't support this because this opens up a can of worms for the city financially. If we say yes to a given program, then how do you say no to another program and then another program? I think funding is coming. Council members also have a discretionary fund. Any council member up here can donate money to whatever agency they would like to donate money to. We have senior meals on a discussion item tonight. And again, we have that opportunity. I will not support this item because I think it's in the purview of our federal government to take care of the people that elected them to office.
Councilmember Soto, do you have any questions or comments on this item?
No, just, Councilmember Nelson did say, that partial funding will be released on Wednesday. That still means there's a gap. And with folks that won't be receiving their full benefits, it has a ripple effect in the community with our grocery stores, and then that affects the workers, and it just goes on and on. I'm not asking that I'm not committing to any number. For all we know, it could be $1,000. I mean, I don't know, right? I'm definitely gonna want a request that we have more, but if we could help with anything that the council is willing to give on top of what we already have as discretionary funds, I would be very appreciative of that, and I'm sure many of the families in Visalia would too. And I know there's nonprofits that I think like the Visalia Emergency Aid, who does check utility bills to make sure that they live in the city of Visalia when they go to go receive food from them. So not just anybody can't just come and get the food. They verify information, and so again, I'd appreciate if council would consider moving this forward so we could discuss further and figure out those details.
Thank you. Councilmember Puchigan, any questions or comments on this item?
No, I've always been pretty consistent. Federal issues are federal issues and local issues are local issues. And we shouldn't get involved with the federal issue. I've always been consistent on that. I think it sets a dangerous precedent. When do you step in on a federal issue and when don't you step in on a federal issue? If we give to one organization, why don't you give it another organization? And it sets up that dangerous precedent that I don't think that's in our purview on the city council. I would say that I urge Congress to act. This is what we put them to do when they're not there doing their job. Now, would I be okay with us writing a letter to our Congress representatives urging them to vote on this to give people the supplies they need? Yes, I would be fully supportive of that because that's in our purview. That's what our job is. I don't think this sets up a very, very dangerous precedent because once you do it for one, you got to do it for all, and that's how we've always worked on the city council. And we try to stay in our lane and do what we do what our job is here, and this is a federal government job, not a local government job. And that's why, I don't want to set up that dangerous precedent. So that's why I won't be supportive of this tonight. I will say that we have discretionary funds, and we can pick the organizations that we want to help out with those discretionary funds, and those are what those funds are meant for us to give to the organizations that we think need that, and that's why we have those funds. but to use taxpayer and general fund money for this, I don't think that's appropriate use of the public funds, so I can't be supportive of this tonight.
Vice Mayor Nguyen, any comments or questions?
As the former executive director of VEAC, I probably need to conflict myself out of this, but I'm not
No,
there
you're
at this
not.
point.
You
But
haven't worked
that
there in
was
a
my
few years.
that was my whole request of this council, and I know many of them have done that, was that we would consider discretionary funds going to the food pantry, as well as my friends, neighbors, and family members. And so I urge everyone in this audience to think about that, even $25. I mean, any amount that you can send to our local food pantry, they can double and triple the effect. I will support Councilmember Soto because I think it's the right thing to do right now. In 2 weeks or whenever this comes up next, the whole thing may be over. But I think it's worth having at least a discussion, although I know it won't go far. That's all right. We sometimes just have to support one another. Thank you.
Thank you. And so on this item, I'll be voting no also. A federal judge has already stated that this is a program that needs to be funded by the federal government, and this is not something that as a local council we should be dealing with. So I will not be supporting this item. At this time, I'll entertain a motion. If there's,
Oh, okay. I move to approve the request by Councilmember Soto to place the item on a future city council agenda to discuss the possibility of city donation to a food-based nonprofit in Visalia.
And I'll second that.
first, second, please vote. And the item fails 3-2. Thank you very much. Okay, next we're going to